All right. Another session for AI and CX. Today, we're going to be talking about human-centered automation. No one better to talk about that with Jessica Rose Garcia from OneSkin.
Oh,
Um, she has a lot of experience balancing the agent efficiency with an authentic customer experience. So she's led OneSkin. I've known Jessica Rose since before OneSkin. She's got a long legacy in customer experience at some of the most prominent D2C brands. So she's been through rapid expansion, modernizing antiquated support into the new era, going through operations with empathy at the core of every interaction. And she very much believes in AI as an assistant versus a replacement. Um, Today, we'll talk a lot about how do you empower teams through AI? How do you balance automation, human touch, continuous
yeah.
training, all that kind of stuff that we already know that Jessica Rose has gone through and I've seen firsthand a few times. Why don't we kick it off, JR, as I like to say? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background? We can kick it from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for such a sweet intro. Yeah, like Fran said, known Fran for a very long time. So it's a pleasure to be sitting here with you of all people as well. As Rose, JR, a lot of nicknames because I have a long name. Been working in D2C ecom in CX for, I believe this is the 13th year, which is kind of crazy to think about. A lot of different brands, a lot of different companies. So seeing a lot of different levels of growth, business acumen. And it's just the absolute first love of my life. Like, no joke, CX is really, kind of the center of my whole life, even in my personal life and in the way that I interact with others. I think relationship building is really at the core for me. So yeah, I have a dog who you can see napping in the background. I think is a fun fact about me. His name is Fox, Fawkes. If you know the reference, then you'll know what that's from. But he refused to not be present for this. So here we are.
Special guest. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know firsthand how you interact, and it's all consistent, whether in the job, in the role, outside the role. And I totally agree. CX is at the heart of everything you do. I know when you were looking and considered a new job, OneSkin came across your desk, and they were in this phase of a lot of organic hype. Something could be big there, and
Hmm.
you decided you could bet on them and roll with it. And you've gone from coming in, getting things together toward rapid scale, toward a lot of hiring, all of the above. I guess, like, as you're going through that, how do you think about introducing automation, AI behind the scenes? Like, what does that actually take to build a team to like embrace that technology, but also continue to lead with empathy, which I know is so important?
Yeah, that is a really good question, a really meaty question. I think kind of two-pronged how I would answer that is one, I mean, my approach is always team first. So even if a tool or a system or some kind of policy is better for the customer, but it's really bad for the agent, we look really closely at that in general. What's good for the human that works at OneSkin is going to inevitably be good for the customer, right? We want to enable them to be able to do their jobs not only really easily, but with a lot of joy. And we want to make it and empower them to be able to do that in the best possible way that we can. So it has to make sense, essentially. So we look at
Yep.
automation and we look at AI. We always make our human team members a part of the conversation. It's never like me and my supervisors come in and we're like, all right, here's what we're doing. This is what it looks like. They're very much a part of the build. They help us QA. They look at that AI and automation as kind of a friend. And because I think they're a part of the conversation, they can see very early on and very easily that this is going to empower them to do better work. And kind of expanding on that is there's a ton of tickets. I mean, we all know it. If you work CX or even if you just order things online, you can probably guess that a CS department is getting, how many, where is my order tickets, cancel my subscription, edit my subscription, edit my order, and things like that. While important for the customer, I wouldn't say it doesn't leave the agent a lot of room to do incredibly impactful and like meaningful work from a conversation perspective. Again, not to say there's not the opportunity, but I think there's more to be won there. So automation and AI is really kind of taking off these simple triggers off their plate. So they have more time and more room to have those meaningful conversations. And they feel empowered to be a part of that because we include them and make them a part of it.
Yeah, there's been this like fluffy term for a while talking about customer experience being the employee experience. I think in this instance,
Hmm.
it's really important because no one signs up to be an agent to look up tracking numbers and then reply back.
Yeah.
They want to genuinely help people. And I totally see that. It makes for a better agent workforce when they can work on the more sophisticated things and have more of an impact to the org. I guess
I
with that,
agree.
yeah, when you're introducing AI and automation to that point, like how do you go through the change management? How do you go through the training to make sure that that's apparent to them?
To the actual human doing the work or to the AI?
Great question. Let's go through both.
Okay, yeah. I think for the AI, something that we do a lot that is really, really impactful is the AI takes a note, and automations take a note from the actual human responses from our
Cool.
team members. So it's kind of using that as a base of like checks and balances of like, okay, well, if Betsy, shout out Betsy from Horatio, if Betsy said this, but I'm not saying this or I'm not giving that answer. Why is that, right? What's wrong with the reasoning here? And why was Betsy saying that? So that's kind of like part of that too, right? Again, back to kind of how the human team members or agents really lean on that AI to help them, but also that AI is leaning on those human team members to kind of be a
Yeah.
source of knowledge and empathy and understanding. And again, kind of just back to the human agents, like they really do view it as like, I wish I had like I could share printed out Slack screenshots, like we were on a late night talk show right now, on little cards because it really is amazing. Like I got a Slack message an hour ago where someone was like, "Oh, Kelsey said this. Like, I feel like it would be better if it was XYZ." And that was like the most amazing thing, right? Like when we first launched AI and automation, we saw the agents really take this like real stake in how the AI automation was working. I mean, they'll even call out my workflows for automation, like even with Heart. They'll be like, I feel like it'd be better if we asked them this in the form. And I'm like, yeah. So they're a part of that conversation.
And Kelsey is who?
Sorry, Kelsey is our AI chatbot and our email automation. That would have been helpful to explain. Thanks for that call out. So
No,
she
I
is kind of
figure
that
it's
AI, yeah. But we call that AI by name, just to make it, more human and more impactful. And it actually helps like internally in our organization too, because we champion this like real name versus being like go AI, which can be kind of funny.
of course, yeah, it brings the empathy to it a bit.
Hmm.
I think you touch on a good point that's come up a few times throughout these discussions and just in general is how important it is to get the fundamentals in place before you embrace AI. Because you're right, like it's only going to learn from you in your best state, and you want to make sure that your fundamentals are in their best state so you can kick the
Totally.
ground running. So I think it's a really good point. You've said to me a few times AI is here to make our agents' life easier. You just said it earlier in the chat and not replace them. I guess as part of that training, like how do you make sure your agents are empowered and not threatened?
I think the first step is that, we make them a part of that build and a part of that launch so that they feel like they're really having impact there. But also, we talk about the numbers a lot, right? When you talk about some of those kind of low hanging fruit tickets, like cancel my order, things that can take a lot of time, but really like should it's simple, right? It should take less amount of time. When they see the impact of ticket handling and what they're able to do, especially during busy times, like when we had a product launch, right? That when we talked about the numbers, they felt and saw that impact. So it's not something that we're looking at only top line from like a leadership perspective, but we're involving the human team members in that conversation so that they can feel the impact and they feel
Yeah,
it themselves too, right? Like they're in the help desk far more than I am every single day, which I always give homage to for them. And they can feel that, that it's happening. And now that we have AI and email automation too, that's been really key because they can actually physically see the answers coming through.
got it. So just like bringing them into the build versus saying, here you go, and kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, how do you also like as you go through that, there's a benefit toward AI handling more tickets to free up your agents, but how do you think of like the quantity versus quality experience? Like how do you balance all that?
That is a very good question. My methodology is really, I think a lot of people would think is very slow. So instead of launching like everything at once, so anything that a human team member can do, our AI team members can do. I don't go by that methodology. I launch what we refer to as policies, one policy at a time. We check and curate that policy massively. We launch it live and then we look at it very, very, very strictly. We have a scoreboard for what we call essentially like OneSkin perfection. And we want to get within a certain range of that OneSkin perfection that's measured. And at that point, that's when we would move on to another policy. So we're very, very serious about looking at it closely, and we don't want to run too quickly. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, like I said, the agents are like super invested in this. So they're really looking at those answers as well. So we're keeping a close eye on it. But honestly, it's like very impressive. And because, again, that AI is using those agents as kind of a springboard too, it feels very human, feels very empathetic.
And when you go policy by policy, what's the communication loop for you? I guess you're training it, you're working with your vendor, are you communicating out to your company? OneSkin makes a few medical claims. I'm sure that's very important. How do you handle all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. All of those are great questions. My approach is I kind of tell my broader company, hey, here's what we're planning to launch as far as policies and when. And then I keep them up to date if there's kind of any issues there. I go through that QA with the vendor, correct?
Okay.
Um, and sometimes multiple iterations. I am pretty tough, which I think they could all speak to, and I will stop something in it. I'm sure you can speak to that. I will stop something in its tracks kind of immediately if I don't feel like it's close enough. And then we just kind of adjust dates from there. When we launch, I have a channel in Slack that is strictly for these releases, essentially, and then we talk
Okay.
through what happened and show examples, etc. Um, the second part of your question, what was it? Remind me.
It was communicating to the vendor, but also internally to your company and making sure everyone's on the same page. Like, who do you communicate to? How do you do it? You kind of answered it with the Slack.
Yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
over Slack. And it can be time consuming, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah. Again, the foundational builds, the more I think you put up front to that, the more this is going to pay off. And then from there, um, in those flows, you can start to tweak the personalization. You can tweak the tone. I mean, you can do so much with it. How do you go about that in terms of making sure people know this isn't just giving a generic response and it more hears them and is trying to give them more context back?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have something called the guidelines that help us kind of tweak where we need to. So as I QA, I go through and I'm like, hey, this feels off. Like, what can I change? So the ball's really in my court to kind of make those updates, which are not difficult to make, which is great and something that we want to see. But I think it's just about doing the hard work and looking at it. Like, this is going to sound so basic, but I literally put time on my calendar and I just have it blocked out a certain amount of times per week for however many minutes or hours. And then I go through and I just make sure I'm diligent about doing that work. Same thing I do for Hark. Like, I do the same thing looking at Hark. I review everything. It's like if you
Uh-huh.
don't actually set the time, it'll get away from you. But I think
It'll
it's
go away
important
from
to
you.
do it.
And you're going in as if you are OneSkin's number one fan customer, or you're disgruntled and you're just going through different flows, different journeys, and making sure it's showing up to represent OneSkin.
Yep. I play in the playground. I actually talk to the AI. I try to do, I try to get as tricky, I guess you could say, as possible. And one thing that happened this year is we went on our biannual work retreat and I, in front of everyone, the whole company that was present, gave a live demonstration of our AI. I was already very confident, but I was any kind of live demonstration of any kind of tech. I was just like sweating bullets. And I was like, tell me what you want me to type in. And they asked some hard hitting questions and it killed it, which was great to see. So less sweat, but yeah, we all really look at it. And honestly, even
Yeah,
the CEO will Slack me and be like, oh my God, this was a great response because she just went to like play around with the chatbot.
that's great. And to that point, are there certain flows that you just feel should be human only, should be AI only? Like, do you have any kind of stance on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have really, really stringent rules in the systems about keywords that are said or anything that just bypasses the AI regardless.
Okay.
Things like sadly, death in a family. Or on the other side of that, like marriage, right? Those celebrations, just had a baby. Like we have a ton of different things. Also things that are kind of adverse reaction related. We don't get, too many of those, but everyone's skin is different, right? So you always want to really look closely if someone's having issues so you can work with them one on one
Yeah.
to help kind of find out what the issue could potentially be. And so we want to just get that to a human right away so that we can ask, more detailed questions and make sure there are no misses. If somebody is saying trigger words too, like I've tried to do this so many times, that automatically gets escalated to a human right. We want to
Yeah.
cut out any possibility for them hitting what we call that AI loop. Not that the
Yeah.
AI is incorrect, but just to kind of make sure that they're immediately getting to a human. If people, this one's obvious, but if people talk to a human, we're not like, well, tell us more, we can help. No, just boom, immediately get them to a human agent if that's what they want.
Absolutely. Yeah. We didn't talk about this prior, but I'm just thinking about it When you think about scaling up for sale, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday or something,
Yeah.
are you first going toward the AI and then seeing how far you can push it and then supplementing with like maybe a BPO or something?
No.
Would you rather just have the BPO? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, and this is like very specific for us, we've only launched this AI automation this year, right? So I've never had it sit through a Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or peak period before. So
Okay.
it's kind of a little bit of both. I went about it like I staffed up until where I felt I needed to staff so that there was no overage for first response time or, risk of CSAT or anything like that.
Yeah.
But then I also really prioritize the types of policies that we know get asked a lot during peak period, subscription cancellations, frequency updates, etc. So that at least we would hopefully have that AI to help with what we consider the bulkier part of our tickets, Wismo, order delays, etc. So, and this is going to be kind of an observational period. Like I would always
Mhm.
advise that to anyone, right? Like take that observational period. You don't need to have 1,000,000% wins or over promise to your company. Like, this is going to solve all our problems. Like,
Yeah.
let's really test it and be comfortable testing it. So that's what this period is for us. But we definitely have high hopes to see how it performs.
Totally. And you've had it for a bit now where you've gained more trust. Again, that's another good theme is like, you don't have to rush this thing. It's going to be a part of your team for a long time and make it a really valuable one by giving it the training it needs to perform versus just hoping you turn it on and it's there.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because I think sometimes like we think we click on a switch, right? And it's like it's gonna
Yeah.
reduce X or it's gonna save us this much money. It's like, would you hire somebody, train them for 3 weeks, and then never talk to them again? Like, no, you wouldn't. And you wouldn't rush them to be like, okay, well, we want to have you at compliance of these KPIs in a week, right? Like that's not how humans work. So I don't
Yeah.
believe that we should look at AI in that way either. And I love that you said that. I think it's kind of one for one. It's the reason that we QA our agent, our AI agent, the same way that we QA any other agent, because we do view it as one for one.
Absolutely. We just kind of went over a few final talking points, but if there's anything CX Data talking about bringing on AI, thinking about optimizing their AIs, like, is there any one nugget you'd leave them with?
I think it's really what you said. It's like you don't need to outpace yourself and you don't need to outpace anybody else. I think we see all these posts on LinkedIn and we hear about optimization, but we have no idea the hard won work that goes in the back end. Only you
Yeah.
know that for your company and your team. I don't think there's a one size fits all. I don't think that for anything in CX, but especially here. So take your time, talk to people in this space, not only people that vendors recommend, but just like cold reach out to people,
Yeah.
have those conversations and see kind of what's working for other people. But take your time, especially with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up. I would not advise anyone to like rush to where they're launching something kind of right against the wall. I always feel that it's just never introduce something new into the ecosystem right before then. And I think you're asking for trouble. So take a breath, take your time. It's going to be a great year. It always is.
It always is. And you mentioned cold email people or cold LinkedIn them. That's how you and I met, cold LinkedIn.
It is true.
Uh, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you after this and cold LinkedIn you, is that the best place, LinkedIn? Is it email? Is it Discord?
Yeah,
Where is it?
might as well. Discord, I love that. LinkedIn, Jessica hyphen Rose is my first name. Last name Garcia. Just hit me up there. I'll get back to you.
To be clear, the full name is Jessica Rose, not Jessica,
Yes, correct.
to be very
First
clear.
name Jessica Rose or JR. If you hit me with like a "What's up, JR," then you're automatically, and I'll be like, "Oh, I know this person for sure."
And they know your dog, Fox.
Yeah, and now you know Fox, so you can mention that too. It's a double whammy.
Nice. Wonderful. Thank you I know you got a lot going on right now. So thanks for taking the
Thank
time,
you.
educating everybody. And as always, great to chat.
No, it's an honor, pleasure. Thank you. Good to see you.